Have you ever wondered how a superpower like the Soviet Union, which dominated a substantial part of the 20th century, suddenly collapsed? A question that piques the curiosity of many. Our story begins with the birth of this global titan, the Soviet Union. Emerging from the ashes of the Russian Revolution in 1917, this vast and powerful state was the brainchild of revolutionary leaders like Lenin. He was later succeeded by Joseph Stalin, who further entrenched the Union's position on the world stage. Together they forged a communist powerhouse that influenced the course of world history for decades. The Soviet Union, however, was not just a symbol of communist might. It was a complex entity, a melting pot of diverse ethnicities and cultures, a testament to the power of unity and collective strength. But even this mighty federation could not escape the inevitability of challenges. This powerful state, however, was not immune to challenges. The Soviet Union's decline was not sudden. It was a gradual process, fueled by economic inefficiencies and growing political dissent. The economic model of the Soviet Union was marked by central planning, which, over time, led to bureaucratic stagnation. This lack of dynamism in the economy hampered innovation and impeded economic growth. The state's control over the economy also meant that there was very little room for individual enterprise. This in turn led to widespread dissatisfaction among the populace. Simultaneously, political dissent was brewing. The Soviet Union was a tightly controlled society with little tolerance for dissent. Censorship was rampant and individual freedoms were curtailed. This repression led to an undercurrent of discontent that slowly but surely began to undermine the Soviet regime from within. These issues set the stage for significant reforms in the 1980s, but as we will see, they also sowed the seeds for the eventual downfall of the Soviet Union. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union's new leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, introduced groundbreaking policies of perestroika and glasnost. These twin pillars of reform were designed to breathe new life into the stagnating Soviet system. Perestroika, meaning restructuring, aimed to overhaul the Soviet economic model. It sought to introduce elements of market economics, reduce wasteful spending, and stimulate economic growth. It was a bold departure from the rigid central planning that had long defined the Soviet economy. Glasnost, on the other hand, meant openness. It was Gorbachev's initiative to promote transparency and accountability within the Soviet government. The goal was to reduce corruption, encourage public discussion, and create a more open society. These policies represented a significant shift in Soviet ideology, a move towards a more liberal and open society. However, these reforms had unintended consequences. Gorbachev's reforms unintentionally sparked nationalist movements across the Soviet Union, further destabilizing the regime. As the winds of change swept across the Soviet Union, they ignited the long-suppressed desires for independence in many of its republics. The Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania were among the first to declare their intent to secede, followed by several countries in Eastern Europe. This rising tide of nationalism, combined with economic instability and political unrest, created a volatile mix that the Soviet leadership struggled to contain. Then, in August of 1991, a group of hardline communists attempted to seize power in a desperate bid to preserve the Soviet Union. Their failed coup attempt only served to accelerate the process of disintegration. In the wake of the coup, more republics declared their independence, and by December, the Soviet Union was no more. These events signaled the beginning of the end. The Soviet Union officially collapsed on December 26, 1991, marking the end of an era. This dissolution, which came as a shock to many, was not a single event but a series of occurrences that led to the eventual downfall of one of the most powerful empires of the 20th century. The immediate aftermath of this collapse was chaotic and fraught with uncertainty. 15 independent states emerged from the wreckage of the Soviet Union, each grappling with its newfound sovereignty and the task of building a nation from scratch. These states, once tethered together under the flag of communism, were now free to chart their own paths, though the transition was anything but smooth. The social and economic upheaval was profound. The centrally planned economy, which had been a pillar of the Soviet system, was abandoned almost overnight. In its place came a rapid and often disorganized transition to capitalism, leading to widespread economic instability. Inflation soared, savings evaporated, and many people found themselves thrust into poverty. The social fabric of these new nations was also deeply affected. the shared identity that had been forged under the Soviet Union began to fray, giving way to a resurgence of ethnic and national identities. This led to conflicts and tensions, some of which persist to this day. Moreover, the geopolitical landscape was drastically altered. The dissolution of the Soviet Union ended the bipolar world order of the Cold War era, leading to a period of American dominance and the expansion of the European Union and NATO eastwards. Yet, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, there were also opportunities. The collapse of the Soviet Union allowed for greater political and civil freedoms, including free speech, free press, and the right to assembly. It opened up the space for democracy to take root, albeit with varying degrees of success. In conclusion, the collapse of the Soviet Union was a monumental event that led to significant social, economic, and political changes. The legacy of the Soviet Union, however, continues to shape the world. Its influence can be seen in the political dynamics of the post-Soviet states, in the geopolitical tensions of today, and in the lingering memories of those who lived through this transformative period. The fall of the Soviet Union represents a pivotal moment in modern history. Its collapse signaled the end of the Cold War, a tense period of geopolitical rivalry between the West and the Communist bloc. This shift in global power dynamics had far-reaching implications, affecting the trajectory of international relations and global politics. Moreover, the fall of the Soviet Union ushered in a wave of transition in Eastern Europe and Russia. Countries under Soviet influence began their journey towards democracy and capitalism. This transition, however, was not without its challenges. It required restructuring entire political systems, economies, and societies, a process that continues even today. In Russia, the post-Soviet era marked the end of a centrally planned economy and the beginning of a market-based one. This shift was accompanied by significant social and economic upheaval, the effects of which are still being felt. In conclusion, the repercussions of the Soviet Union's collapse continue to reverberate to this day.